crack. Tom and Jack having a crack.
Welcome to Tom and Jack having the crack. Every week we sit down with another comic, have some crack. This week we have the wonderful Hatty Preston with us.
Hi Tom, thanks for having me.
Yeah, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to be this week's Jack as well.
Yes.
I said to you on the way up, I was like, just subbing out gingers now. Like, when Jack's not here, just get another one in. So I'm thrilled.
He's gonna be fucking furious.
He is, because it's a huge upgrade.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got that coat.
Yeah.
I could have worn that. Yeah.
Well, you didn't, Jack. Maybe if you look more like a brothel madam / stall owner, you would, be asked back on your own podcast, but you're not.
But I could. It's my second favourite aesthetic. He's away in Mexico at the minute.
Of course he is. He can't. People like him can't go there. He's too pale.
I know.
What is a redhead doing in Mexico?
Also, he's gonna hate the fact you're describing him as a redhead.
He is a red. Oh, ginger. I'm supposed to say. I'm not saying strawberry blonde. That's that cuck stuff. But he's a ginger.
My mum would always try and say I was urban. And I was like,
did you get that?
well, I did a survey of kids in the playground, Mum.
Yeah, kids are saying. The best one we had, because my mum, when I was growing, I was very, very red, and then it all sort of like calming down a bit more like it is now. And we were. It's gonna sound very grand. We were on the set one day, and thank you. I was a child star. You probably recognise me from things like the Norwich Union commercial, age 10. But one of the drivers said we were driving back, and he was like. And my mum was going, she's like, I don't know, they were asking what your hair colour is, but I don't think it's ginger, because it's not really ginger, and you're not auburn, it's not dark enough. And she was like, I don't know what. And the driver goes, darling, she's Titian. That's what she is, she's Titian. Like, thank you. Yeah, okay.
As in the Renaissance painter.
Right, the kind of Greek, like in a toga. And I was like, he's not fucking wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, my guy, what are you doing driving cars with this fucking brain? Like,
that is a hell of a compliment to pull from somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, your 10-year-old looks like a Greek goddess. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
It was slightly disturbing.
Sure, listen, yeah. That is why he's drawing, but yeah.
Yeah, it was the only job they'd have me after the incidents.
But good lad. So we stuck with Titian for years. So I'd like you to refer to me only as Titian. Thank you very much, Tom.
I mean, to be honest, any Renaissance reference on this podcast
is welcomed.
Welcomed.
Great. Well, this is going to be huge. This next
huge
hour is going to be a huge ep. Sorry, Jack, you're never coming back.
Yeah. And did you try and push Titian in the playground? You're
yeah,
like,
I think I did.
Actually,
I think I did. I think every now and then, you have to like. Mainly for acting, I guess, when you have to fill in all your things. And a couple of times I did say Titian, and they must have been like, who does this bitch think she is? This like teenage girl being like, it's actually Titian. Do you know what I mean? Like
spelt Tish.
Yeah. Yeah. UN. Titian. I did definitely try and wheel it out, but it is so pretentious. But you just, I don't know, So, but I'd like to bring it back. What I'm saying is, when you and all the other comics are discussing my hair, which I know you do on a regular occurrence, I would like you all to say Titian.
Can you? I would love your first album to be called just Titian.
Oh my God, can you believe?
That'd be great.
Brilliant.
Great.
Spelled like that.
Great.
Titian.
But with the cover art of
a Greek goddess. Yeah, for sure. Then I walk out and everyone's like, yeah?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, tell you what, the greys are coming in though. Like, they'll be like, she's fucking out of her mind. She's great. She's great now. She's Barbara Windsor.
I could
at the end in this coat. Yeah.
With like a goblet of prosecco.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. I know Joanne McNally's on the Prosecco Express. I'm gonna be the Prosecco vat. That's gonna be mine. And just like bathing in a tank on stage of Prosecco.
Yeah, Cleopatra's ass's milk. I go for more Lambrini.
My granny, she was from Cumbria, and she grew up very, very, very working class. And it was my favourite thing that like she always used to say, she's like, her greatest dream, her biggest thing she always wanted, she wished would happen, but never did. She wanted to bathe in champagne. She wanted to have a bath in champagne. And I just love the idea that to her was like, that's the pinnacle. Like, I think that's also what she always just thought rich people were doing. You know, like, that's what I want. A bath of champagne. You'd actually start thinking about it. You're like, the fuck, that would sting everywhere.
I was like, had pH balance not been invented?
Like your vag is out for months after that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think she was particularly active towards the end, but like, your vag is done. Like at that point, champagne foof? Like, no.
This little yeast.
Yeah, and I was just like, I love the idea that Grandma Mary, like, she still to the end held this thing like that's what she'd always wished would happen. Bath of champagne. I was like,
I love the idea that that's what she thought rich people, like the door closes in Downton Abbey.
Yeah, and they're just like, no, fill it up. And when they said like, a bubble bath, that's what they meant. Yeah. Bubbles. Yeah.
So
Just Patsy and Adina like, darling, more.
So I grew up in a well, you've been to the farm, which is I love
The most beautiful place on earth. I sure have.
And Lynn says hi.
Oh God, I miss her. Let's say please send my love back.
Yeah, absolutely. She's counting down the days till you and Kate.
Oh,
come
we're
back.
we're in. But we're never going to leave. Well, she doesn't realise that we're going to come back and stay.
Yeah, I think she's fine with it. I think
Fabulous.
she was talking about because they don't use a lot of the house now. And
Great.
she was like,
We don't need much room.
that's what she was saying. She was like, well, I reckon we could probably have a little B&B in here, couldn't we?
Oh
and I
God,
was like,
we'd be there every weekend.
Yeah.
She'd be sick to death of us.
I know. She's going to single-handedly like raise the Northern comedy circuit.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, there seems to be like a
It's
massive
an absolute
influx of-
hub just outside Leeds. It's like all Lynn's fault. I mean, you also happen to run a great show, but it is largely your mum. Like,
Oh, she's
that's the draw.
Yeah, 100%, and I'm fine with it.
Great.
Yeah. Therapy's helpful.
So good.
Yeah,
Isn't it then?
Yeah, she is. Like I remember, like at Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I saw Daniel Sloss across the room.
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he was one of the first people who did the.
I remember you saying, and
farm.
Dean told me that, yeah.
And he just came up to me and gave us a hug and was like, "How's your mother?"
Oh.
I was like, "She's great."
Because there's no shit, and I think this is the thing, is in comedy there's such shit. There's so much like rubbernecking and networking and like people like me and Katie have had it, even today, like we're booking this show and there's a comedy who's going to remain nameless who I just think is trash, but they're doing very well and they've got a bit of traction, and you're like, oh, fuck, like we're gonna have to like put our own instincts and our own taste to one side and be good bookers and be fair. It's not about us, it's about the audience. But you've always taken these like politicized, like how to do, how to treat, how to pay, and then people like your mum turn up who just say shit, like say what she thinks, like as she says it while she's feeding a pork pie out the oven that she's made that day, and you're like, this is fucking real. This is the real stuff. And she just is wonderful. It's such a wonderful juxtaposition to have such a great show and then just this like excellent northern mum at the back of the room.
Well, I mean, that's her thing in life in general. She can't stand it when people are inauthentic and fake.
I know. We got into it. Yeah.
She really like riles her up. So the first couple of times it was because obviously it was a weird time. It was COVID.
Yeah.
We were bringing show busy people to the house.
And she'll tell you the ones she didn't like.
She will.
She'll tell you.
She's got a list.
I was like,
She's got a list.
yes, Lynn.
So when I did the booking for the me and Dean did the booking for year 2.
Yeah.
I had to show it to Lynn.
Of course she did. Yeah.
She was like,
Of course she did. But she made the good point. She mentioned one comment. She didn't say his name, bless her. She was very diplomatic. And she was like, you treat me like a hotel. She's like, you just treat me like a hotel. Treat this whole place like a hotel. Treat me like staff here. And she's like, don't want him back. And she's got the thing like, it's my house. And you're like, fucking too right, it's your house. You don't have to have these people back in it. And I just loved it.
But I think it's a good thing for any comic or anyone in entertainment. Because you do a lot of acting as well.
Yeah.
I think it's good for anyone in entertainment. I remember I was in an interview with Harvey Keitel and he was like, if you don't have to take the shit, don't take it.
Yeah.
Like there's some circumstances, especially early on, where like you can't get around it, but
you just have to take it.
But if there's ever an opportunity to not take it, don't.
It's so tricky, isn't it? Because you're in that situation all the time. I had it on Friday. I had an audition for something on Thursday, got called straight back in the next day. So you're like, oh, okay, so it went well. And for the recall, they got the fucking American client on the Zoom, which is just always. Casting directors in the room, American clients on Zoom, and I did the thing. Again, I'd like to emphasise, it was the day after. So I did it, I will say, almost exactly the same as I'd done it the day before because we did 12. I wore the same outfit just to cure superstition and all the rest of it. Went in and did it. And she was like, oh, okay, sorry. Hi there, sorry. It's just very stressed. Like, it feels very stressed. And I was like, cool, the script is obviously about a stressed mother. So was there another option that you felt was, and she was like, no, it just feels very stressed. I just feel like, imagine you had a glass of wine, you're sitting there and you're calm and you're kind of like laughing at your family, you're not so stressed about him. So I did it again anyway, kind of still trying to make sense of the script that had been sent to me. And she came back on, she was like, okay, sorry, I'm sorry, it's still really stressed, it's actually quite unpleasant to watch.
Oh my God.
Every fibre in me was like, tell her to go fuck herself and walk out this room.
Yeah.
After 35 years on this planet as a woman who hopefully by now is sort of working out her worth, everything in me was like, get fucked, I'm leaving. But you need the money.
Yeah.
You need the money.
Yeah.
You need this job. I cannot, in front of a casting director, tell a client to go fuck themselves. And the lovely thing about that sentence that Harvey Keitel said is, I think that's the moment most creatives dream of is to get to a point where you can walk out of situations which make you feel terrible.
Yeah.
Was we never have that. Like, when do we, like, how often do we find ourselves brown nosing some like trash booker being like, oh, that'd be so kind to have an unpaid trial 10. Thank you so much. And to get to a point of autonomy and agency in this industry is the dream.
Oh, 100%.
It's the dream. To being like, sorry, the way you're treating me isn't up to my standards. So, and that's not being arrogant or demanding more, but it's just being like, just human.
As a human.
As a human
being.
You're not treating me as a human, so I'm actually going to like peace out because I've got a fucking killer bank balance back at home, which none of us do. So, yeah.
Something that I've been thinking about a lot. Because I don't know, I go into Europe and do these
Yes, I've
shows
seen.
and
Yeah,
stuff, and the farm was a big part of this as well. I just don't want to put energy into things that require I don't put as much energy into things that require validation. I'd rather put energy into things that don't require validation.
So like an example.
It's like running your own show.
Yeah.
Promoting yourself in Europe or whatever.
Yeah.
They're things that no one needs to tell you yes. No one needs to give you permission
Right.
to do those things.
But they have to buy tickets.
They have to buy tickets.
Does that not like make you curl up and die inside every time you're selling tickets?
I think it's a personality thing. I think that I'm fine with that because I'm like, God, I think we can make a fun little trailer. We'll give them a good show.
Yeah,
So
you do.
So
Yeah,
they'll enjoy themselves.
yeah,
So they'll have a good time.
yeah.
And I've done a nice thing for people. I mean, ultimately, it sounds a bit corny, but ultimately it comes down to like, I think, they get a nice time.
Then they do.
There's a good value exchange
Yeah.
there. And so I don't mind.
Value exchange. This is so interesting because I've been in talks all Christmas. It's been sat down with my dad and my brother who are in business who can't. They keep being like the value issue is off. Like I was chatting to someone recently about potentially working with an American comic and bringing him over and doing all his stuff over here, whatever. And he was like, just let me know what your rate is.
Horrible question. Yeah.
Tom, I mean, we went into like, I was like, I don't know, like a sandwich. I was like, maybe if my hourly was £15 and then I said I'd only do 15 hours a week. And then if I just maybe gave him a discount. My dad and mother were like, whoa. Like, you are uniquely placed to help this person because you straddle both scenes, the US and the UK scene, because of the fact that you know the scene, because of the fact that you're incredibly organised almost to the point of OCD. Like, the value exchange that is so in your favour, as in what you would bring to this is so mega. He'll make pots and pots of money if the special goes well, etc., etc. He wants to cite me as a producer, all this. In my head, I'm still like, but don't be too greedy and make sure you're very grateful because, this is a huge opportunity. And the ability to see your own value I has evaded me at some point along the way of just going like, I'm just thinking. And I think that's an acting hangover because you know that if you say no, they're like, all right, we'll get the next girl,
Yeah. Exactly.
You're so replaceable.
Exactly. Whereas in this scenario, I think your dad and brother are absolutely right. There's a lot you're bringing to it that isn't just performing on the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I did a corporate gig was for my sister-in-law's company.
Oh yeah.
And she said, "What do you want to get paid?"
Jesus Christ.
And I based it on the very little limited club payments I had in America at that point.
Oh Jesus! So you asked for $70, didn't you?
Yep. For 30 minutes.
At which point they go, we don't want this guy. He's nothing.
So thank God for Lucy.
Yeah.
That's why she's more like a sister at this point.
Yeah.
Been with Toby for like.
Is one with your little niece?
No, you met no.
Oh, the boy.
Yeah.
The nephew. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, great.
Magnus's mum.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for everyone. You've heard Magnus's name before.
Yeah.
Maggie's mum. I told her number. She was like, "I'm gonna ask for," and she gave a figure, and I was like, "What?" And she's like, If you say what you said, they'll think you're a joke.
And this is something I kind of, again, had just evaded me. Because even as a nanny, I think I come in pretty low. Because I'm like, because I have to leave at 6 and always go to shows, blah, 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 blah. And, I won't be available really at nights to do, because I'm, do shows. And I've seen it as something that depletes my value because I'm a stand-up. And you're like, sorry, these kids get raised by a comedian. Are you kidding? Like, you should be doubling your fee. They're hilarious. And I do feel like exactly that, which my dad and my brother were saying, that like, if you come in at £15 an hour and like, you're a joke. Like, he doesn't respect you. He doesn't believe you can do a good job. It's terrifying. You're bringing in like a peddler of nonsense to do this job. It's such a thing that I don't understand, is to come in and be like, this is how much I'm worth. This is how much you have to pay if you want me. Boom.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, wow. It's capitalism, isn't it?
Yeah, because they can always say
Yeah.
no. Or they can always say we can't do that, but we could do this.
Yeah.
It's very rare. It's actually very, very rare someone would say, you've given me a number that's so offensive, I'm going to walk
Right.
away from
Which
the
I just
total
assume they
interaction.
will. I just assume they will. They will look me in the eye and be like, you're not worth that. See ya. And I'll be like, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God, you're so right. That's what the voices in my head are always saying. Like, yes, it's true.
Back to my market stall I go.
Yeah. And therapy. Yeah. You know?
They're the number one beneficiaries from the comic industry, I think.
God, I mean, they must see us coming.
So-
Do you know what I mean? Like, I sit down with my new therapist, and I'm like, oh, I'm also a stand-up comedian. She's like, she's going to be here for years.
Lifetime. I'll do a lifetime deal. It's fine. I remember Jack. 'Cause he's so. It's so interesting because I think there's always two types of comic. There's a comic who was the kind of like the funny one at school and had lots of friends and was kind of like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's the other comic who was like made fun of at school.
Sure.
And I feel like they're the two branches that most people.
Yeah, you're probably right.
come
And the
from?
comic and the comedy inclination was a defense. It was
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
from a defense. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can probably guess which one I'm from. But
Mentors.
but Jack is much more like. See, he's like, what is everyone in therapy for? I don't get why everyone's in therapy for. And I kind of understand his point, but
My thing about it, and I always say this, and especially my parents who are pretty old school on it, like my dad would do the thing of like really trying to like be interested, and he is interested. That's not fair, and like wanting to ask the questions, and then so we're talking about it over Christmas, and I was like, well, the thing we're kind of talking about now is this, and my relationship patterns, and he sort of listened for a bit, and he goes, yeah, you can think too much about something, can't you? And you're like, yeah, no, you're right. So it's a complete waste of time and money. What am I doing? It's like they get to a point. Like they'll give you grace, they'll get you to a point, and then they're like, I can't. I'm out. This is too much. Like, but my thing is like a lot of us went to university or a college or whatever and studied a thing for 3 to 4 years or even 2. Like we studied a thing. We became proficient in a thing that was medieval history or Spanish or Latin, whatever.
useful stuff. Yeah.
All the useful stuff. Yeah. But therapy is studying you. It's studying you. It's studying the person who's going to be with you for your whole life, who's going to make who is your decision maker, like, and going, that's wild that I'm doing that. And I just don't understand why everyone's not so interested.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting. It's not. I don't go to therapy and just sit in like a bag of tears and snot and cry at this woman. We'll sit there and I'll be like, I did this week and I did obviously that seemed weird, and I keep going for this type of guy. So is that and like. Learning the formulas, if you will, of your brain rather than further maths.
I agree completely, and I think it's like the gym. It's like,
right.
It's like if
Yeah.
some people are genetically very gifted and they don't need to work out very much, and that's great.
God
for them.
bless those people.
And they can go for a walk once a Tuesday.
And get an app.
And they're, and
for
they're
sure.
fine. And there's probably people who have the mental equivalent of that.
Yeah.
Who actually are quite satisfied with their patterns and what they're doing, and it's all good, and that's fine. Maybe they need a little tune-up every now and then. There's other people who need motivation and a Rocky montage and someone to show them exactly how the bench press machine works. And
totally. And it doesn't mean you're going to have it forever. Like I definitely know that I went back before Christmas to therapy because I was like, this thing keeps happening. Like, there's a thing that keeps happening, and I'm old enough and ugly enough to be like, we need to get this sorted because this is insane now.
Yes.
Like, so that phrase, isn't it? If there's a bar fight in every bar you go into, it's you. And I definitely had one of those moments. I was like, she's done it again. And I just went and sat down with this woman. I was like, something. I cannot sit here any longer and be like, isn't it wild? I keep attracting these guys who do, and you're like. So this will be a momentary. I mean, please don't show this to my therapist. This will be like
I'm on a bulk deal.
Yeah, exactly. She thinks I'm in it for the long haul. But this will be a period of time until I feel like I've got a handle on it. I know what these patterns are. I know how to break them. I know how to deal with them. I know how to go forth. It's not a life sentence to bedlam. You know?
I was the same. I had a very specific thing that I wanted to work on.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a root thing that was influencing lots of things.
For sure.
And I really got a handle on it. And then now I just go back for like tune-ups.
Exactly. That's a really good way of putting it. Is just the occasional,
Like if things have built up and you're like,
I'm getting a bit,
and it's having more of like a check-in.
It's sometimes a port in a storm as well. I feel like if things are starting to get a bit noisy and loud and colourful in your head, you sort of like, well, just get to Wednesday and then you can run it through with someone.
Yes.
And it's quite nice there's a safety in it. You know you're gonna exactly that. You know you're gonna port at some point, and it's in the next few days, and it'll be for an hour. It'll be all right.
Yeah, and then you start calming yourself down because you're like, right, well, this isn't forever. This isn't This isn't gonna like ruin everything because we start catastrophizing.
Oh, hard.
Coupling things up.
Yeah.
And like, oh, if that means that, then that.
Then you have a
that.
beer, so the next day's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like, look, I can just compartmentalize this and get through to Wednesday.
Then we're grand.
Easy peasy. Did you start doing therapy in America or was it?
No. I lied. The very first time I ever went to therapy, yes, was in America. And I was 21 and I was studying over there at college and I had a breakup while I was at my long distance. So we've been together 3 years. I had a breakup while I was out there. But before the breakup, obviously, breakup comes out of nowhere. So it had been a pretty rocky few months before the breakup. And I decided, it was a very much like, when in Rome. You know what I mean? I was I'm in America. If I'm ever going to try therapy or counselling, it's here.
They do that
They
here.
fucking shit themselves over it. Yeah. And it still wasn't really a thing over here. I didn't know anyone in therapy in England at that point. No. I mean, this was, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Christ, we're old. Well, I am. And I went, and it was because I was at college. What they gave you was student, counselling students, so the ones doing their MAs and their PhDs and whatever, studying at what do we call it, psychotherapy school, the grad school. And I felt at the time he was coming off the fence. I mean, I wasn't in a good relationship. It was not a good relationship. The guy I was with was not behaving particularly well. But he'd say stuff like, Hatty, it feels to me like you're justifying all the bad stuff with the occasional nice thing he does. And I immediately get on the defensive, like, well, you don't understand, actually, because he's quite insecure. And so I found myself going to these therapy sessions and wanting to have some support and whatever. And I actually could get very defensive about my boyfriend. He's actually amazing. I spent this out being like, you don't know him, and he's kind of incredible. And it just didn't work. I think he came off the fence too quickly. I think there should probably have been more. Now I look back and I don't think at any point should he have told me what he thought about the situation, but asked me to decide whether I felt I was being treated well in a situation. Do you know what I mean? It's that like,
and you get them to come round.
Yeah, but I definitely because of the way I was at, and I was young and I loved him so much that I just found myself getting more on the defensive. He probably elongated my relationship actually, that therapist. I was like, I'm gonna stick this out and show you.
Well, it's also you're justifying your own decisions.
For sure, yeah.
By saying he's not a nice guy.
No, I'm not being walked all over, you prick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I wanted to do it in New York, but the prices were just astronomical. And I had I was working for an advertising agency. I had good health insurance.
But not for that.
Yeah, it was like it's like $250 a session.
Yeah.
Or something.
My American friend has an amazing joke about this. He was like, he really needed therapy, and he was really struggling. Comic, obviously, and he went to look into it, and he saw the prices. He's like, oh well, I guess I'll just handle it then. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah,
and I remember, I said to a friend I was looking into doing it, and they were like, if you don't get it between 81st, between York and Park,
so wild.
Don't bother. Like, they all live there. These are the good ones.
Therapy circle.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically like,
Sad gal corner. Yeah,
sad gal corner. Yeah, you get a matzo ball soup afterwards.
Jeez.
Yeah. They're like, I was like, oh, you're kidding. He's like, no, it's a real thing. Like,
it is pretty tribal, isn't it, New York, in the way of like what lives where. You know? And like.
Yeah. Like if someone gives you an address in like Dumbo.
Bye.
Like they're gonna have crystals.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and a scarf on the head. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Yeah, it's mad expensive out there.
Yeah. Whereas here it's been pretty affordable and useful.
Yeah.
But so you went to America when you were 21.
For the first time, as in for a long period of time. Yes, I was 21. I went for my junior year of college in Virginia.
Which
William and Mary.
William and Mary.
Yeah, 'cause I'm a really smart girl actually.
Yeah.
You know that about me. But I had a great time. Met one of my best friends in my whole life, and her family sort of adopted me. So I have every now most years. I'll go back out to their farm in Virginia, which is actually very much like yours, but the Virginia version. It's just a cattle farm. I mean, I know yours isn't cows, and it's just beautiful, and the people are good, and the living is good, and the food is good, and everyone treats each other well, and it's my favourite place in the whole world. It's
very hard for European people to understand, I think.
Yeah.
When you go out to the countryside of America, how vast it is, how big it is.
Yeah.
It's easy to understand why people who live there are like, why am I paying for subways in New York? Why am I...
Totally that. The idea of social responsibility is harder when you don't see it.
Ever.
And this lot, I'm not talking about my lot, who are very caring and very thoughtful and generous, the Virginia family. But I think, for the most part, exactly that. I mean, part of the reason I love it so much isn't just those people who are the greatest, but I've gone out there at times in my life where I've really been struggling in London, like really either like breakups or work or just bad times. When I get there, it's like nothing else exists. I can't imagine London. Like I can't even imagine it. Your problems are left because you're just skies and fields and beautiful things, and it's magic. It's really, really magic. I don't know what you're doing here in London. I don't know what the fuck you've done.
No, I mean,
why are you here?
I think about it often.
Right, you should. I do.
Because I mean, I think like New York changed my life, changed me as a person.
Yeah.
Like 5 years there, because you hear about it in films and stuff, and you talk about it in culture, but until you've lived it, and I think you probably went through a similar-ish thing, I guess, where you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
There is a real sense in America.
I believe that
you can like change your story, just rewrite your own narrative, and people will embrace. If you want to try something, people are like, okay.
I would never have started stand up if I'd started over here.
Yeah, same.
Never. I started out there, and I would never have over here.
Yeah.
And listen, we Americans do preach that you can be whatever you want, whoever you want to be, you just got to work hard enough. Now, what we do know is that isn't true because it's based on race, gender, socioeconomic status, etc. But for an English person going over there who are coming from a culture which is so not that, which is stay in your lane, status quo, we have a class system, which while we might not recognize it, we have. And so the idea of people being like, oh my God, you want to try that? Go get them. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. Whereas in England, they're like,
why you?
Right.
Why you?
Why you?
Why are you so special?
Why are you so special?
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know people find it quite saccharine sometimes, but God, I'd rather my kids grow up in a world like that, which rightly or wrongly proposes this idea, but we don't.
So where was your first show in America?
Chicago.
Great.
Chicago's where I started standing up. Chicago's still a comedy home for me because I did my first year and a half out there, and so my first show was at the IO. It was an open mic, and I'd been doing this class. And I know people turn their noses up at like stand-up classes, yeah, but I think with someone like me, that was the only way I was ever going to get. And it was very much a bucket list. It wasn't like I'm going to now be a stand-up. I was like, wouldn't it be wild? Because again, I was over there by myself, like you, like. There was no one to judge a decision. There was no one to be like, so I was like, fuck it. Like, do this stand-up class. And I got incredibly lucky that the guy running the stand-up class is one of the greatest stand-ups in Chicago, if not the world, Marty DeRosa, who is just a gift. And we got to like week 3 or 4, and he was like, lads, he's like, well, he didn't say lads because they don't, but in my head, he's like, dudes. He's like, I can't, there's only so much I can teach you in the classroom. You've got to go out and do open mics. Like, you've got to go out and do it and see it. And me and one of the guys were like, fuck it, like, I did a good 3 just then. Like, let's go in. And I went in and signed up. And you obviously, when you're new, you're at the very end of the, I mean, you don't know how the American system works. So you're right at the end of the show, of the mic. And I just remembered like walking into a room, and bear in mind I was coming from an acting background where I never now, I know looking back, felt massive kinship with a room full of actors. Like I always found actors a bit like my friends who are actors, I feel like are my friends in spite of them being actors. You know, I don't love groups of actors. Stand-ups, it was like walking into a room and being like, oh, my people have been here this whole time. Just the way everyone was, the way everyone thinks, the way everyone behaved, the way everyone managed life. And it was, I mean, obviously it wasn't brilliant, but I just kept, my thing with stand-up was, if you like it this week, do it next week.
Yes.
And I've never wanted to do with stand-up what I did with acting, which is made it the be-all and end-all, which was wrap my self-worth up with it. So it meant when I was out of work, I was a shit person. And when I was flying high, I was the most important person. With stand-up, it's always been, if you like it this week, just do it next week. And I just have.
Yeah. I think I was very, very, very similar.
Yeah?
Yeah. I did a class because I had a breakup.
I
basically broke up from, I thought I was going to marry this American girl. And she met my parents. Lynn bought a dress for the. She was like,
this bitch. Fuck this bitch. She hurt Lynn.
Yeah.
Fuck this bitch.
Yeah. And so after that, I was like, and work was getting really. Because I worked in advertising for like 14 years, and it's quite a dangerous career. Have you read a book called The Artist's Way? Yeah.
Love that. That was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So she talks about shadow careers.
Yes. Yeah.
I definitely had a shadow career.
Right.
Advertising was like my and I was killing myself to try and make really good ads.
Sure.
And it was so brutally
because it was your creative brain.
So
desperately trying to get out.
Yeah. So when I had this breakup, and work was getting really hard, and I had a panic attack one night. I rang my brother, and he was like, "Buddy, you need to just find." It rang Tobes. He was like, "You need to find something creative that's just yours." And because I used to act when I was younger as well.
Yeah. Yes, I remember you.
And I thought about going back to do like jobs. Like, do I want to be like in a West Village production of like My Fair Lady?
Yes, you do. You nutcase.
I mean, and call me. Yeah, would be phenomenal. And I was like, well, at least with stand up, I've always wanted to try it, and at least if I'm shit, it's just me. So I can keep doing it every week.
Yeah.
So there is that always option of like you can just keep going.
Totally.
No one can tell you no.
You're captaining the ship.
Yeah, 100%. And then I did a course for the same reason, which was like at least it'll show me what an open mic is and where to go and meet some people who are also doing open mics. I think
it's quite an English thing. Like we went to like school and through quite a good like hearty discipline school, and there's a comfort in like a lesson. I know this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite English public school. Do you know what I mean? Like a teacher. Yeah. Like this seems legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you have the reaction from the crowd of just like? Because they might have seen Jimmy Carr ones, so they might have seen like Ricky Gervais ones, but
John Oliver's a big one, obviously over there, yeah.
But they don't see showcase British comics.
No.
Very often. Did you have that instant thing where people like locked in on you and it was like, oh, a different accent, a different person?
The way I always put it was, I think I got a minute of grace. So I think at the beginning of my set, I got a minute of grace where everyone's like, oh my God, you sound so great. I love your accent. But because Americans are so much better at comedy than we are, and because they write so much better, and because their jokes are so much tighter, if I didn't then have a good another 4, didn't matter.
Yeah.
So I always think you got me a minute of grace, and then I had to keep up with what they were doing.
Yeah. You mentioned something there that is I agree with.
Yeah. They're better than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for anyone who's like never experienced a lot of American club comedy, I think there's good and a bad side to it. I think the joke writing, generally speaking, is a lot tighter, and I think that they have better perspectives quite often, like more observational, interesting perspectives quite often.
Yeah.
But I think the downside is they're in this transactional relationship with the audience, where I think British crowds, their instinct is like, well, are you funnier than fucking Dave? Because my mate Dave's fucking funny.
I agree
you
with
better
that.
be fucking funnier than fucking Dave.
Yeah.
I'll pay fucking 15 quid.
Yeah.
Whereas Americans are like, hey buddy, I paid $25.
Yeah. I want to have a good time.
Because their self-worth is, British, especially men, British men's self-worth is wrapped up in banter.
Oh, because I mean, look at the show I did at yours.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dave.
What's his face at the back?
Actual Dave.
Was clearly was like, I should be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
People should know I'm here as well.
Yeah.
And as much as we all took the piss out of it and we're like, Dave, he felt he should be getting attention as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
And his
who are you?
His version of that night is, I was like cracking it.
Buoying up the crowd. I was buoying up the crowd, and I was like hype man, and I was like all these things. I was adding too.
Yeah.
Was he nearly Marcus was like, I'm trying to do very good comedy here. Could you shut the fuck up? Like, I think I caught him at a sweet spot, my step, because just before he tipped over the edge into obnoxious. But it's exactly that.
Yeah.
I do think it's And
an American dude can just be rich. They don't have to have good crack.
He doesn't have to
banter.
prove to you he's funny. He's
rich.
They're
just like, hey, buddy, I paid $25.
See the girl I'm with?
I'm on a date.
Dude, yeah.
You do your little thing?
Yeah, your little circus act.
Your skits?
Yeah.
Your skits are great?
Your skits.
So I think that pushes you into a transactional relationship where all they want from you is bang, bang,
totally.
bang. They don't need to know much about you particularly or like your...
Absolutely. Whereas I think what I found when I came over here, and I don't know if you found the same, I came over here and I'd only done it in America. So I walked out confident, and I walked out me, and I walked out like, you're going to enjoy this. I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy this. I bet that you're going to enjoy this. And I came over here and wasn't having a good time on shows, like not at all. And again, that was going on in your head. We were like, the American system is so much better than the UK scene. What's going on? Why isn't it translating or whatever? And it was a comic who came over and he was like, thing about like, you've got to establish from the get-go that you're the shittest person in the room.
Yes.
You've got to establish you're the shittest person in the room. And I was like, right, but I'm not the shittest person in the room. The chairs are pointing towards me. I'm not the shittest person in the room. He's like, yeah, but they need to know you think you are. And I was like, it's fucking English people all over. It's the underdog. Yeah. We don't. If someone walks out and is like, I'm the shit, and actually I know I'm the shit, so buckle up because you're going to enjoy this. They're like, ugh. Do you know what I mean? They're like, who do you think you are? We absolutely will not now enjoy this. Thank you very much. Yeah. We shan't. We do not respond well to confidence. We do not respond well to self-belief. We do not respond well to also demanding that.
No.
So there had to be a reshuffle of going out. And I mean, my opening was for ages about, I've gone ages without sex, or like, I'm a nanny. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly the audience go, oh, thank God, she knows she's worse than us. Now we can relax. And
100%.
It's nuts. If you went out there and did that in the States, they'd be like, well, why are you on stage then? Because I've paid loads of money. I don't want a shit person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nuts.
Completely agree. I mean, Marcus actually gave me really similar advice when I got back.
Birdman,
yeah. Marcus Birdman, yeah. Great.
God, he's great. Great lad as
comic.
well. Yeah.
Great guy. You know, him and his missus stayed for Sunday lunch the next day.
Of course they did. Oh, yeah. Actually, I saw he was in a show with him the other week, and I was asking after her, and he was like, "You know, she got trashed that night." I was like, "No, I didn't. I knew Jack had, but like, I didn't know she had." And he was like,
"She couldn't get out of bed till like 2 in the
what
afternoon."
you said. I was like, "What?" She was ungrateful.
So Marcus said,
he was like, "No, she got trashed."
Oh, me and Marcus and Jack recorded a pod. We went for a walk around the farm.
So good.
And Marcus
God,
like,
she's great.
Marcus was like, I was like, do you want to stay for lunch? Like, yeah.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah. She's immobile.
Fabulous. Very nice. But when I first came back, he was like, in America, you haven't had to declare where you sit in class.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to the status thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, in some of your jokes, you're northern, your perspective is northern, and in some of your jokes, your perspective is posh.
Yeah.
And it's really confusing people in a British crowd.
Of course it is, because we don't associate those two.
Yeah. And they're like, well, am I better than you or am I not better than you?
Yeah.
And where do you think you sit in this? Because you haven't offset your poshness properly. And nor have you made your northernness part of your act. So
you're almost having to go, am I more posh than I am northern?
That's what Marcus said.
Jesus.
And I was like, well, I'm more posh than I'm northern.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's when you have to pick.
Fuck. Isn't it wild? Isn't it sad?
Yeah.
But I think that's why British comedy is on such a back foot. Like, you watch the British comics, and the first 1 or 2 minutes is them setting up their cartoon. Yeah. It's them setting up their caricature of like, oh, I'm a stupid, sad single woman. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, it's just so unnuanced and boring and hack and brash and like, and I think the Americans are able to have a slightly more nuance in who and what they are, whereas we need a cartoon, and I think that's why we're where we're at.
And also, it means everyone's show goes on a similar journey.
Totally is.
Of like, this is me. Like I said, this is me. I'm not as good as you.
Guess what? I'm not really this cartoon.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through. Plot twist.
And then end on something more. Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, fucking none of us are.
Yeah.
It's not human. None of us are the thing. The first time you meet someone, what's that great Chris Rock quote? Which is
a representative.
Right. First time you meet someone, you're meeting their representative. It's the person who comes, the PR team who comes to say, well, this is what I'd like you to know about me. And then as you gradually get to know someone, they're all these things that don't make sense. They're, you know, every side of every coin. But our comedy still doesn't allow for it. Yeah.
I wonder as well if it's the classism's a big thing. The Edinburgh show format has always interested me as well, because I'm sure your American mates are the same as my American mates.
They
like,
cannot
why are you guys doing
the audacity.
That? Yeah, I know.
The audacity of someone 4 years in thinking they have an hour.
Yeah.
Get out of here. And they don't, by the way. Like, I'm going to offend every single comic on the scene, but none of you have an hour worth paying for in the first 5 years. Not one of you. Worth paying money for. I'm sure you do have 60 minutes of words. I'm absolutely sure you've worked out a way of saying words for 60 minutes that people should be paying money for. Not a fucking shot.
Yeah.
In the States, they don't get sign really for the first 6.
Yeah.
They would never dream of having an hour for the first 10.
Yeah.
And
you'd be embarrassed. You'd be embarrassed.
And the idea that people are like, yeah, I'm going to take up my show. You're like, I haven't seen you kill a 10.
Yeah.
I haven't. I watched a guy who's a lovely boy and a really lovely comic. And I've seen him do a 10. He's already got a nice 10. And I saw him do a 20 at the Comedy Store a little while ago. I was there supporting Katie.
Oh, nice.
She was doing her first. And
shouts to Katie.
Shouts to Katie Green, my girl, and Lynn's future also, Dr. Daughter.
Yeah.
And it was boring. This guy did 20 dull minutes. Like it wasn't even not funny. There were some jokes in there, and he's such a lovely guy that he has this manner that kind of takes people along with him. But it was dull. Like, you were like, how long has he done? Like, you got it. When someone asks you to do a 20, that should be a hot 40 that you've whittled down. Mm-hmm. Not 10 that you've dragged out.
Yeah.
And that's what the Edinburgh format does. It asks comics who've maybe got 15 to yank it out into 60. Yeah. And it's terrifying.
Yeah.
If we called them one woman, one man shows,
exactly,
different thing. Call it that.
Yeah.
Call it that. Say, this year in Edinburgh, I'm going to do my show. It is not an hour of stand-up. What you've got is a show, is a comedy performance. Mm-hmm. It is not stand-up. And it's making us lazy. It's making us lazy. It's making us waffle. Yeah. Because people are having to pad for time.
I also wonder what people think it's for in a modern context, because previously it was do an hour show, even if it's a one-person show. Mm-hmm. Doing the hour show, go to Edinburgh. I get seen at Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. I get
industry.
I get put on TV or something. That's why I monetize myself off the back of it. But now that model it's dying.
Yeah.
And also, there's other ways you can monetize yourself. I just don't know why you would keep putting as much energy into it.
I think the agents are still perpetuating the myth. I think the agents are terrified. I think they're scared, and right to be. We're working out a way of making them pointless. And I think they're perpetuating this myth of it because it serves them. Yeah, they get to go up to Edinburgh. They have a lovely time. They're going to put you in touch with meetings. It's like, I can get an email address. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I can find, like, I'm kind of but like, because I'm going to be moving up north. I'm leaving London. I'm going to move up north. And you sort of like...
Liverpool, Manchester?
Yeah, Liverpool. Yeah. And you're starting to be like, okay, well, I kind of need to get in. And I've got in at the clubs I really, really like to, and I feel... But there's a couple of others that... And you go, oh, well, maybe I should talk to agents about the spots. You're like, no, fuck it. All my friends are like, we'll just give you the email and vouch for you. And when you have... the way you operate your career, I think, attracts then the people who are doing the same towards you. Like the comedians I respect and love and would, promote at my loudest voice and sing their posters across the town are people who are similar to me, who feel the same way that I do, who are approaching this career the same way as I do. And I think there's more and more and more people doing it the Wild West way now than doing the industry hoop jumping. Yeah. And I think I got into it. I'm not proud of this. I got into a Facebook argument the other day, and I'm really usually above it, but I just wasn't on that day. And it was this agent. What did he say about the Northern Irish comics? For anyone who doesn't know, the Belfast scene is fucking popping right now. Like, it is some of the most savage comedians on these two isles, and who are doing exactly that, like pods and running their own nights and running their own clubs and doing their and they're belters. And this agent had gone on Facebook being like, well, anyone who wants to make it on the Northern... he said they're having to do their own podcast and having to start their own clubs because there's no industry in the Northern Ireland. Yeah. When they want to start hitting industry, they're having to move to London. And you're like, what are you talking about? These people are on more money than most of the rest of us put together.
They are the industry.
They are the industry. Their pods are the biggest ones. Their shows sell out every single time they even vaguely put up a poster. Yeah. The standard is unbelievable. And the idea that you're still sitting here in England being like, well, they need us. You're like, you're out of your mind. Yeah. You're out of your mind. And I get that you're scared. You should be. Yeah. But you've got to work out a way of getting around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about so creatively, like you said, should you be good enough to have a really hot 20 that can work in any club anywhere in the country? Yeah. Yes. Creative, that's a really good ambition. Yeah. Commercially, like thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business, you don't necessarily need that validation. No. To start making money or to...
Right. Yeah. It's a tricky one, that, though, isn't it? Because we've now got comedians who are getting thousands and thousands and thousands of Instagram followers with 30-second TikTok sketches. And you're like, right, but what are you? So
that's another tricky thing to navigate.
Because you've got, we're getting now where comics who've nailed down TikTok and sketch acting and whatever can pull in an audience. So to a club, they're like, oh, brilliant, they've got 80,000 followers, we'll sling them on a 20. You're like, but they haven't got that.
So that's what, but that's where people have to be more progressive and forward thinking. You book that human because they can bring an audience.
You gotta know.
Do you book them for a 20, or do you, or is it a night with?
Oh, come on, Tom. How many male comedians do you know who are going to turn around and be like, actually, I'll be honest, I don't have a 20, but I do have a good 10. Like, fuck off. They're not gonna they'll be like, yeah, man, I could do an hour. Do you know what I mean? And it's this it's the tricky. I don't know what the answer is. I'm still trying to work it out myself and where I sit on all this. But
I think format flexibility is definitely should be something that any venue should be looking at. Again, it's where American shows are really helpful because they're not locked into this model of opener, middle,
no, they're not
breaks
at all. And and especially New York, that kind of, I don't want to call it the alt scene, but the scene which has the Meg Stalters, the Mary Beth Bryans, the sort of who are not classically stand up, have such an audience because they've sat in their corner. They've been like, this is where I sit. I'm not apologizing for it. I'm not trying to get into yours. This is my corner. Come to my corner if this is what you're in for. And they're killing it. Yep. We kind of have it with the Moth Club. I think the Moth Club do slightly more different. There's a bit more character comedy. They're thinking outside the box a little bit more. It's less of the typical necessarily stand up that we watch. But there's not much of it in England.
No, I think it does stem back to what you said right at the start, which is we're always looking for this sort of class structure, royal family driven, like pat on the head and acceptance. Like this is a governing body. This is an acceptable venue to do this in, and they need to validate you in order to progress to the next level. Whereas like that whole Brooklyn, the Brooklyn, for everyone who doesn't know, like the Brooklyn Manhattan difference of like you're a club comic versus you can do more of like spoken wordy or different
or character. Yeah.
And some comics love to flip back and forth between the two. Like what I made, like Daniel, who he'll do some more like experimentally weird stuff, and then he opens with Jessica Kirson and does like tight 15-minute just haymakers, but then we'll go do some storytelling also.
Great.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's like Hannibal. I mean, Chicago comic. Obviously, Hannibal Buress is God out there.
Yeah.
And he's a savage comedian, one of the best. He's unbelievable. I went to see his hour at Zanies, and it's bonkers when I was out there. And then a couple of years ago, he's just like, I'm bored. I'm going to do music now. And you're like, yeah, my guy, okay. I just love that. Yeah. Can you imagine you and me turning around, we're like 20 years into comedy, being like, I'm tired. I want to try music. Like, my mum would be like, grow up.
Never. I should retreat to the farm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lynn, mummy said grow up.
Yeah. So the move to Liverpool, is that just because... Is that
Oh, it's a lot of things. I cannot settle on the London scene. I've got my ones. Like I love my little comedy corner of my gang, like Katie, McCann, Will, I love them. And I'm so lucky. But I don't sit well here, and I don't find I have a great deal of it. I mean, we went back to the States all over the summer. And then I was in Manchester before Christmas, and I'm just the way you're creating comedy from a place where you're like playing and it's playful and it's silly and you're riffing and you're taking risks, and I don't know, I'm not sure, I just don't find the joy as hard in the London scene. I don't enjoy a lot of the comedians. So even when you're looking at the ones who are always in at certain clubs and always headlining, I'm like, I don't find it funny. So already your blueprint's off, where you're going, I don't, if this is what I'm aspiring to, it isn't what I'm aspiring to, so I'm a bit stuck. Added to that, I literally can't afford to live here. So that's been a real extra handy little push, where, I mean, I'm old and I would like a home. I would like a place that I live without strangers, and my mugs are in the cupboard and my pictures are on the wall, and I invite people around for dinner, and that's what I want. And so I was like, and I can't do that here. And so it's been the push I needed. But I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited about going up there. And I love the Liverpool comics, and I love the Manchester comics. And again, I think what they're doing is exciting, and I'm excited when I'm up there. I mean, just that week before Christmas when I was up there, you're just it's so exciting to watch, and there is an irreverence. And Freddie Quinn was talking about it. I was up with him, and who's brilliant. And he was saying these scenes, like the Liverpool scene, the Northern Irish, the Belfast scene, he's like, they're scenes that have grown up through ignorance. And he was like, not ignorance because they're stupid, it's ignorance because they've been ignored.
Yeah.
So they've just gone, screw it, we're going to do it our way. And it's, as a result, interesting and kind of wild and reckless. And it felt the most like Chicago. It felt like Chicago when I was out there. And it just...
That makes a lot of sense. Because it's not... Chicago's obviously not New York, not LA.
No, yeah.
It has its own.
It has its own thing, and it knows what its thing is, and it doesn't care about New York or LA. That's the myth. And it really doesn't care.
And it's representative of a broader culture, which is Midwestern culture, in the same way that Manchester and Liverpool, when Liverpool's even its own little annex, is representative of Northern culture, of like Catholic culture, of Irish culture. It's got its own built-in. It knows who it's for.
And it knows who it is.
Yeah.
And it's not trying to be anything else. And then also, I mean, you know this, I think we talked about it. Everyone's delightful. I mean, to come from growing up in London and have people just generally, there's exceptions for sure, but just being ace. I found it when I was up there, like I was hanging out with the Liverpool comics quite a lot, and you can like roast each other after a set and be like, hear that, but then sit and have a drink and just have the best time. And there's a lack of malice, or maybe I'm just putting rose tinted glasses on it, but I don't.
I think when people aren't scrabbling around for when the only way forward is to make your own opportunity.
Yeah.
I think people are less inclined to be insecure about who's getting what.
And they're really buoyed up for each other. Yeah. That's what I love. And it's something, the only reason Katie and I are friends is we both actually moved to England at the same time. We didn't know each other in America. She was coming in from LA and I came in from Chicago. And the first time I saw her was at Vauxhall, and I loved her set. Like, I just loved her set. And I went in, and Sarah, it's my bodyguard. And we went in and she had a great set, and I just went up to her afterwards. I was like, I just thought your set was brilliant. It's so nice to meet you. Like, it was fucking great. And then I did my set, and that went well. And she came out. She's like, I love yours. It's because we both went to each other and said, I think you're brilliant. And it didn't cost us anything. And that's a very American thing. Like, people will come up to you both ways, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, they'll come up to you and have a great set and be like, dude, you fucking murdered.
Yeah.
They'll also come up to me like, dude, bomb. Oh,
Yeah.
like there's a real.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason is we felt.
Yes, British comedy is different, huh?
Oh God, dude, you had a dick up there. Like, but there was no. It didn't dim my light to make her shine brighter for a second,
Totally.
and I feel like that massively. And I just there's so many times on the London scene where I've objectively murdered. Not so many times. Sorry, there's instances. So many.
She does murder,
Occasionally,
guys. She does.
Who the hell is she?
She does murder. She does murder.
No, but like 1 or 2 times I can literally be like, I objectively murdered. Like, and it doesn't happen all the time, so you know when it does, and you're like, that was a fucking roof raiser, and walk back, and like but people won't look at you. They won't even look at you, and you're like, oh, do you know what? Really fuck you.
I actually
like
think,
really fuck you.
I actually think you've mentioned such a good point. I think the instance. It's a lot, you know the Jerry Seinfeld documentary Comedian.
Yeah. With the,
so Only Adams has the line about like when you're sort of getting better and taking baby Bambi steps, people are quite happy to say good job.
Sure, they are.
When you actually start doing well,
They're not about it.
no one really wants to.
But we should be. Like, it's one of my favourite things.
That's how me and Jack met. We were on a show.
I'm like,
exactly the same as you and Katie.
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, there are comedians I love loving. Like, I love to watch. I think Red Richardson thinks I'm in love with him, which I'm fine about, because I will always stay and watch Red do a set and will always afterwards be like, you're just a fucking killer. Like, we should love watching great comedians. We should love that. It's the best. To stay after your set because someone's about to go up and murder. Like, what a treat. But I do feel like this scene is not here for it a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, one of the things, because every now and then I get a bit sad that I'm not living in New York and I sort of flip back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think if you can apply American work ethic to British culture, it's actually a bit of a secret weapon.
It is. It totally is. Yeah.
I mean, my biggest pet peeve, when we've been chatting so long, we haven't got to the annoying loving, but my biggest thing in British comedy is when people are like, I'm so tired. I've done like 4 sets this week.
A night. You should be doing that
a night.
Yeah.
And I tell people about that, and they're like, how do they keep going? I'm like, because it's their fucking job. Like, what do you mean? How do they keep going?
I've got 3 tonight, and have said to them, I was like, listen, I just need to open yours, close out your first half, and do the and luckily these boys have been like, yeah, sure, whatever you need. Again, my pet peeve is when the bookers are like, we actually rather you don't double up, and you're like, oh, okay, then pay me twice the rate.
Yes.
My other pet peeve, what I would like to get onto, because it's a public service announcement.
Go for it.
It happened so recently, I can't, and I'm not slagging. I'm trying not to slag off the comedy scene too much, but if you book someone and for an unpaid spot, absolutely fine, not a problem. You're allowed to. We all need to trial out our new stuff. If you then tell me when I get there, hey, if you want to do new stuff, that's fine, but just maybe like sandwich it between, so if you're like, if you are not paying me, it means that I'm donating my time and money, by the way, because I've spent money traveling to get here and probably a sandwich on the way. I get to do whatever the fuck I like. Also, special corner of hell, a little shout out to those bookers who don't pay the comedians and then either take the whole bucket at the end or pay £4 whatever for a ticket. If you're getting paid before the comedians get paid, trapdoor to hell. Trapdoor to hell. And it's outrageous. It is outrageous that even a bucket split, even sling them a tenner, to be like, we're hoping to travel, we're hoping to cover a £5 for the tube here. If you are making money and comedians are thus donating their time to you, not cool, but also the audacity to then be like, hey, if you want to try new stuff, maybe, like, nah, I get to do whatever I like.
Again,
whatever I like.
I think these are all hangovers of like an
power system,
of an established scene.
Totally
like,
is.
In Europe, so in Paris or in Berlin or Amsterdam, they're all in Europe, right?
Oh, they are. Yeah, big time. Well done, Tom. Yeah.
Thanks.
What schooling?
Northern education.
Yeah. Your school's in there?
It's just a barn with a.
To me.
It's just a barn with a.
Thought you were just mining. Yeah.
A barn and a blackboard and a cow with chalk. and Lynn in the corner.
The Dairy Lee cow. Yeah, good.
Exactly, yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. They'll do a bucket split for every show.
Because that's correct.
all the time.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if a crowd likes the acts and likes the
You mean it's meritocracy? Sure.
yeah. And then you just split it up, and you can get paid legitimate money. I mean, the number of professional comics I met in Paris, because they're like, well, you can do 2 shows a night, and you get 50 shows each night, and it's 100 euros a night, and and you have like a little tiny side job, and
Yeah, it's great.
yeah.
It's it is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I think it should be, but it's a power. It's a hangover from power of.
Yeah.
I mean, you have it. There's one booker, again, I'm going to remain nameless, who booked me like 3-4 months ahead of time, again unpaid on a Thursday, and I messaged 3 months ahead of time to be like, hey, you know that March show? I'm really sorry, I've got to drop it because I've got another show and he just sent me about this Aggie book. Well, you said you were free that night, and I was like, right, but then a show came up that pays me.
Yeah.
So, and what with me giving you 3 months notice to find someone else on a Thursday, I thought, and he was like, can you not do that anymore? And again, he's this guy who's like 50,000 years old and has been running this place forever and is a terrible comic, a terrible host and a shitty person. And you're like, buddy, give it up. Like, give up. It's done. And I know you know it's done. And you know everyone else knows it's done. So he's just got this like, no, it's my castle.
Yeah.
Why aren't you respecting my castle? It's my show. Why aren't you? And I was like, I'm not even responding to this because that will hurt him even more. If I can't even be asked to respond to his email, like, he'll go, I loathe it. I loathe it. I mean, the show I run, I don't know how you do it, but like, if people drop, I mean, I had it the other day, a girl, brilliant comic, dropped with a week to go. She's like, mate, I'm so sorry. I just got offered way more. And I was like, absolutely fine. Do you? Like,
Oh, yeah.
we're all on the hustle.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know. No problem, we'll fill it. Because if you're not doing it for the comics,
Yeah.
the audience will go anywhere. There's so many shows in London. The audience will go anywhere, but like, it's, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it is. And I think, like you said, the most exciting thing, I think, now is if you want to create your own reality in this industry,
Yeah.
you actually can.
Yeah.
So why would you put up with there's some stuff that's always going to be necessary. Every job has that. Every job has, like,
Totally.
you can't win every battle. You have to just pick and choose.
There's going to be shit scooping in whatever you do.
Whatever you do. But on a broader scale, you can decide the trajectory of what you want to do, and you don't have to put up with all of it.
The gatekeepers are gatekeepers because we've endowed them with that.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And,
if we just actually, I really don't need that, then.
Yeah. And ultimately, it was all built towards TV.
Yeah.
So it was like, you have to do this to get to there, to get to there, to get to television.
Whereas now I'd say in England and Ireland, we're in a situation where our best comics aren't on the TV.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And so it is, it's a wild time. It's a good time.
Yeah.
We're a few years behind Americans on this, but it's fucking exciting for us.
Yeah, very. Because I mean, I remember when it first started happening in America, and thinking like, I wonder if British people are going to take to this, because again, Americans are so keen to like be entrepreneurial and push things
and be outside the box and do something crazy. And
yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to know like where Andrew Schultz ends up shaking out in like the history of comedy.
I think, and I've talked to people both sides of the pond about this, the American comics are really interesting about him, especially the ones, you know, up there, sort of like on his peer group, is they know he prioritizes money. Like, money's his thing, money's his god. And I talked to one of them about this when he was over in England. He was like, money's what he wants. Money's what he's after, and he's getting it. And he's raking it in. I mean, the money's on his bananas. But no one's talking about him as a great. Do you know what I mean? He's not a great.
No, that's what I think is interesting.
Yeah.
I think his influence, he will be remembered as having a huge influence.
Huge influence. And we should all feel incredibly grateful to Andrew Schultz for what he's pioneering. Yeah. We should be incredibly grateful. But is he Patrice O'Neill? No. Is he Bill Burr? No. Is he CK?
But I think it's something I've been thinking about. Because again, I spent, I'm still freelance, but I've spent like 14 years full time in advertising. And I've been thinking it more and more as like, there's kind of like an escape velocity of good, where like if you're good enough that a crowd really enjoyed that show, you might not be in the upper echelons of like absolute murderers, but like they really enjoyed it. They laughed a lot, and they'll remember it positively and fondly. But then your marketing is fantastic. I think your path to having a career in this business is.
Do you think you can persuade people of your greatness through that?
I think so.
More so than.
So I went to see Andrew Schultz at Radio City.
Oh, right.
And as a night,
bananas. I bet it's bananas. His shows look like rock concerts.
And the jokes are really, and he's got like, he knows what he's about.
Oh,
so he's got like it's in an hour. He's got like 4 or 5 set pieces. There's like there's like an abortion set piece, a men and women set piece.
Yeah.
And then he crowd works around it. His crowd work is
unreal.
Is fantastic. So he crowd works around it, and then each of those set pieces has a big gag,
Yeah.
a big high quality.
Yeah.
That's a great joke.
Yeah.
Joke in it. I'm not sure if he sat down and forensically looked at it that way.
Sure.
But it plays out like that.
Yeah.
So he has made an hour of great stand-up.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's as good as Mark Normand at joke writing or as good as Michelle Wolf at joke
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah. Sure.
But he's made the hour
Yeah.
pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
On top of an amazing show.
Yeah.
On top of creating a community. On top of simulcasting it live around the world. So you can feel
Right.
like you're having
It's
a prize fight.
amazing. It's amazing what he's doing, and that's why I said we should be so impressed by him.
Yeah.
It will just be from that creative standpoint of like exactly that in the annals of history. How will he be remembered?
Yeah.
Creatively.
Yeah. Subtitles. He'll be remembered for subtitles. Subtitles on clips. Speaking of subtitles on clips, where can the people find you?
Hatty Preston is my name. At Pratty Heston is my Instagram. So Pratty Heston. Oh gosh, we're being. And we're just.
We're wrapping up.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up.
Yeah. I'll start that again so you can clip it. Hang on.
No, we're keeping all that in.
Fuck is wrong with you? Hang on. I'll start that again. So it's Hattie. That was professional. What I just did. So Hattie Preston or Pratty Heston. I also run a show. Am I allowed to do this? Oh yeah, because your show isn't in London. I also run a show called The Big Fizz, which is in Notting Hill, and we're doing pop-ups now. So follow that because it's ace and I love it. And thank you so much for having me because I really loved this.
Oh, this was great. Absolutely flew by.
I loved it. We didn't do any of the questions, but I preferred this.
It's fine. It's great. It was
Okay,
great.
great.
This has been Tom and Jack having the crack with the wonderful Hattie Preston. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Tom and Jack having a crack. Tom and Jack having a crack.